And people.
We're jumping in this morning live from Fly on the Wall Productions. We just got to go. We just got to get this.
Get this going.
We got to get this thing going. I mean, it's 2 minutes shy of 9 o'clock. Tom. Are we allowed to go on 2 minutes early? I think.
Are we allowed to go on 2 minutes early?
Yeah. Well, should I check with the boss?
It's your show.
Yeah, well, it's true.
I mean, everyone knows that Raylene, is the brains behind the operation.
Oh, yeah.
With all due respect.
Oh, yes.
That's what everyone says when they give you a zinger. With all due respect, which basically means up yours.
Listen, before of course it does. Of course it does. Is there a T-shirt that says that somewhere? There should be.
Up yours?
No, just
I'm sure
the translation.
Oh, the translation. I don't know.
Before we even get started, Tom.
Yeah.
Lily is fundraising for her local scout troop 717 right here in the Granite City.
Awesome.
And she is selling these adventure cards for $10.
Yeah.
It all goes to the troops 717 right here in the Granite City.
Yeah.
They're $10. You get $50 off your next set of tires and automotive services at the Tire Warehouse. Look, he's taking his look at this.
No, I'm in. I'll take a couple.
You get a discount of $5 at Tractor Supply. You get $5 off at Shaw's, and on the back, Tom, you can use all of these coupons repeatedly for the rest of the year.
I'll take
many
a couple.
times. You want to take two?
Yeah, absolutely.
Can you afford $20?
Barely. Barely.
Thank you, pal.
No,
Very
I'm
much.
happy to do that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Isn't that great?
That is
and if
cool.
you know anyone else,
and we'll get
who wants to buy one,
Shaw's, Tractor Supply.
Yeah, you get your money back immediately.
Yeah,
immediately.
McDonald's, not so sure about that. Lenny's, absolutely. Always needing work boots and sneakers. So
great.
Always awesome.
Thank you.
So I'll get. So it's really
717 is an awesome troop too.
It's really like a return, actually. Because if I look at these things, I ripped off like $25 on each $10 coupon that you get back. So holy cow, you're doubling your money.
Exactly.
Kind of like the national debt.
Yeah. So the national. When's the deadline here? It's coming.
I'm glad I can laugh about it because it's horrifying to me.
It's what
what it is.
June
95.
1st, right?
Everyone who's listening right now, you owe $95,000.
What?
Every man, woman, and child in the United States, our national debt tops $31 trillion. And that translates to $95,000 for every man, woman, and child in the United States, regardless of your income. If you are so think of it as owning a company.
All right.
We are all citizens of this great country, and it is a great country.
Tom, what is a trillion? I honestly, I don't know what you're a number.
What is a trillion?
What is a trillion? Is it a billion? Is it a million?
It is. I believe, a million. Billion. I mean, quite frankly, it's not a number I ever have to worry about unless I'm talking about the national debt. No, I'm serious. $1 trillion?
I don't know what a trillion is. What is a trillion? Does Joe Biden know what a trillion is?
I'm sure Joe Biden knows what. The president, of course he knows what a trillion is.
How many zeros are in a trillion? What is
honestly, JD, we talk about million, and most people, when we talk about government, when we talk about budgets, most people can relate to a million.
Okay.
And then you talk about a billion, and, most people can't relate, including me, to $1 billion, even though if you look at the amount of money that we dumped into the economy, during the pandemic, the United States government, it was really unprecedented. And that was higher than billions.
Right.
That was in the trillions. So you've got million, billion. So what is a billion? 100, 1,000? It is 1,000. A billion is 1,000 million, correct? No? Yeah? Yeah, because you need 4 decimal places, so it's got to be 1,000.
Did you just ask me?
Yeah, I did.
Tom,
No, I'm serious, and I think in some respects that's sort of the problem with the conversation around our national debt is most people can't relate. I try to. That's why I always refer to it by saying everyone in the United States owes $95,000, no matter who you are. And it doesn't matter. You say, well, I can't afford that. Pretty much everyone can't.
Right.
It's credit card debt. It's
amazing.
debt for operations. And yes, debt for human services, debt for helping people. But, JD, it's still debt. And there are people who say, by 2030, I believe, our national debt is projected to be $50 trillion. And at a certain point, now, for folks who think it's, make-believe, like it's just this thing, we actually pay interest on our national debt. Now, think about mortgages. It all works the same way. The United States doesn't have there are interfund borrowings. For example, the Social Security Trust Fund can actually loan to the federal government.
Yeah.
They do on occasion. But it's not make-believe, JD. I mean, the United States of America has to service our debt. And a lot of times how we service our debt is by borrowing more money.
Well, we get
and I'll never forget one of the best, I've had a lot of mentors in my life. I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great business people. And one of the best pieces of advice I ever got was that you cannot borrow your way out of debt.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're doing.
We still have investors that are hungry for an opportunity to buy low, to sell high, and they're saying that this may not be a total doomsday situation here. So,
I think if the United
it was June 1st, but now they're pushing it. They're saying it could be a few days into the month. So.
If the United States defaults on their debt, the results are going to be short-term results are going to be pretty catastrophic.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the market will take a hit, and then people will be able to relate. So when all of a sudden your 401k goes from 200,000 down to 100,000,
if the U.S. defaults,
if they don't raise the debt ceiling, but so do I believe the debt ceiling should be raised? Yes. Do I believe we have to somehow curb spending? Absolutely. We can't keep racking up.
This is
$1 trillion deficit.
Tom,
it just doesn't work.
Global ripple effects here.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, millions of jobs.
I mean,
millions of jobs.
So I just hope they can get it together. But JD, we really do need to address our national debt. We really do need to start paying it down because, like I was saying earlier, and it was kind of interesting when the Fed started, and they have raised interest rates a record, I'm going to misspeak because it's either 10 or 12 times in a row. Unprecedented. So the Fed has been consistently raising interest rates back when prime was 3.25%, and now prime's over 8%. When prime was 3.25%, you would look at the statistics and you'd say, well, the United States, for every dollar we take in, we are paying 60 cents of that dollar on our national debt. And I would say consistently, well, if interest rates double, if you're paying 60 cents of every dollar you take in to service your national debt, and interest rates double, and therefore your interest payments double, how do you pay $1.20 for every dollar you take in?
Yeah.
You're broke. You literally are. It's taking all of your resources to pay your debt. Taking it. Folks have gotten into trouble with credit cards. Unsecured debt. Maybe buying a car that they shouldn't have purchased, or there's some unfortunate event in their life. So, but when you talk in the trillions, most people can't relate to that because they've never had the government send them a bill and say, here, everybody needs to send an extra $1,000 this year so we can pay down our national debt.
My dad said to me shortly before he passed, I'm telling you right now, son, your daughter is headed for a huge heap of shit in this world, financially and politically and otherwise. It's just, this is, you and I are going to be dead pretty soon. We're not going to be. No, I'm just saying.
Well, speak for yourself. I mean, I think I've got a few good years left. I hope.
But our kids are going to be carrying this for their lives.
Yes.
And their kids' lives.
Yes.
And
Unless,
maybe their kids.
But JD, that our national debt has been around for hundreds of years. This isn't having a national debt isn't huge.
Right.
What is unique about it is if you look at our gross domestic product, which is what the U.S., which is our economy. It's a measure of what our economy produces, the dollar value
Sure.
in any given year. And if you look at our gross domestic product and you take that as a percentage, and it's a simple economic measure, you take that as a percentage of our national debt, it's huge. I mean, it is our national debt just dwarfs our gross domestic product.
The cost of borrowing money is going to skyrocket here. It's already high. It's just going to. And what's going to happen to government benefits that people rely on?
No, we keep going with that. We do not. Just like the state of Vermont, there are some people who says, "Well, what if they don't reach a budget?" No, there are some things. There are some things that the United States will continue to pay for, even if they don't raise the debt ceiling. For example, just a real simple example, not a political thing. Secret Service protection for presidents and ex-presidents. Well, that continues.
Right.
They're not going to say to President Biden, well, okay, your detail just went home because we defaulted on our national debt. Just like in Vermont, I hope that the governor and the legislature can reach agreement on our state budget.
Yeah.
But if they don't, come July 1st, the state police are still going to be patrolling. People are still going to be getting benefits. There are, of course, some things that will shut down. And just like in the United States, there are some things that will shut down.
Is this a recession?
But it shouldn't come to this.
Is this a recession?
We're headed towards a recession. I mean, I don't see how we can avoid one at this point.
Okay.
I just really don't. I mean, is there anyone who doesn't believe that this whole thing feels like a bubble?
Yeah.
For people our age or even people younger than us,
sure.
I'm always looking at real estate advertisements, and you see a home come up for sale, and you remember the home. It's a unique home or unique building, and you remember it, and you think to yourself, okay, that home just listed for $550,000. I can remember 5 years ago when that house sold for $225,000.
Oh yeah.
So how do you sustain? Because JD, it affects everything. I'm horrified when I see the price of multifamily units, because as the price goes up, that when folks buy them, unless they're fortunate enough to have cash, which is not the norm for Vermont, they're leveraging money, they're borrowing money. And because they're paying so much more per residential unit, well, obviously they got to raise rents.
Sure.
So it affects everyone. I mean, it affects you. It affects me. And it affects everything. Everything. The fact that housing has gotten so expensive.
Sure.
That's driving the price of everything up.
I want to ask you, Thom, and I love chatting with you. And I thank you so much for coming in here on Wednesday mornings. And we're going to talk about.
I like being here.
We're going to talk about some local stuff, city government and whatnot. And what's going on with the hotels and all that in just a second. But if you were House Speaker Kevin McCarthy right now, put his shoes on for a second. Joe's leaning a little left. Kevin's leaning a little to the right. We got to find some middle ground. Mm-hmm. Joe's calling Kevin's measures extreme here. What would you say to our president if you were Kevin McCarthy?
There's always the political posturing. So I don't care whether you're asking me to step into the president's shoes or the speaker's shoes. There's always political posturing on both sides.
Okay.
And that's what we're seeing a lot of bit of now. But, I don't know. I guess it's reflective of the divisiveness in the country. But this is not, this isn't about them politically. This isn't about political points. This is really about an everyday American, because if we default on our debt, it's going to be hard for people. You're going to hurt people. People are going to lose jobs. They're going to lose their homes. They're going to lose folks who are, gentlemen or gentlewomen who may be getting ready to retire. All of a sudden, they turn around and instantly their $400,000 401k that they were counting on in retirement is worth $200,000.
Yep.
I mean, the stakes are too damn high. So sit down. What can you live with? But understand the goal. The goal is we cannot default on our national debt. Yeah. There's a part of me that says, okay, let's.
Yeah. Wow.
Fine. because the world knows that. I'm thinking to myself, well, what does it mean if they don't successfully negotiate by this date? It doesn't necessarily. So let's say, JD,
yesterday was June 1st, and now they're
right. So let's say that the date is. Let's say that they work out an agreement by July 1st,
right?
But they miss the date. The date is, hey, we got a payment due on June 15th.
Sure.
I always try to think about things practically.
Sure.
And it's sort of like, okay, so if you had a car payment due on June 15th, and you just didn't write the check, but you wrote it on July 1st, well, what would really happen? Okay, your bank might get a little nervous because you're 15 days late, but they're not going to totally melt down.
I want to.
I think about that analogy a lot. I don't think it works though. The problem is that that so much of our economy is driven by equities markets.
Yeah.
And only recently. The S&P shed, it recovered quickly, but there was a picture that was posted on the internet, and it had to do with artificial intelligence. And the S&P, and instantly there was like $100 billion in equity that disappeared. The market reacted to it. The market went down.
Yeah.
And $100 billion in equity, in real money,
sure,
evaporated. Now it did recover. It wasn't a permanent. So I think about that in the context of the national debt, and I think, all right, well, what would happen? But when I really think through that scenario, the short term effects would be too catastrophic. It would be too costly.
Yeah,
and not for the folks in Washington. It would be too costly for the average citizen.
Yeah.
People would get hurt. So, I just hope, just put America first, get through this.
There's a lot of...
And there'll be, and if any side wants to claim victory, fine, both sides can claim victory. If it makes you feel better, go ahead. But not successfully negotiating a spending package and the increase in the national debt it's not an option.
There's a lot of concern locally, right here in Barrie, about just everything is interconnected here, and and I know that City Council was talking about the homeless being released from the hotels, and with the as Raylene is religiously paying attention to this and watching what's going on, what the city is asking from the state for help, and there's a lot of moving parts here. I'd love to bring on Dan Moland.
Oh, do that.
Dan, are you with us?
I am.
Good morning, my friend. Dan is I
can't hear Dan.
Dan. Well, you can now. Dan's the head of Enough Ministries right here in the Granite City, right in our backyard here. Dan, what say you about all of this? What's coming here? Is this going to be a max exodus of people relying on all the great things that you guys already do and have in place over at Enough Ministries?
I mean, certainly, I think there is a potential for a lot of people to be once again unhoused. I think it's, there seems to be a lot of panic about it right now. And I'm not sure we should be totally panicked about it, because there has been homeless people, I mean, this is nothing sort of new, like, oh my gosh, for the first time we're going to have homeless people. Vermont has always had a large number of homeless people. The statistic is right now that Vermont is second only to California in the number of per capita homeless people that are here. And so, people aren't going to be in the hotels. Some of those people will undoubtedly find housing or couch surf or other kinds of things that they've done in the past. And some people will be camping, I don't know that it will be as dramatic as I think some advocates have have made it out to be.
Well, there's a lot of media attention right now about this, and a lot of folks that are speaking out about this. Rick DeAngelis from Good Samaritan Haven was just on with us not too long ago, talking about some fundraising efforts that they're doing to try to put together some camping and tents, sleeping bags, cooking equipment, survival materials for folks. What do you think is going to happen over at Enough Ministries with your soup kitchen and the incredible amount of food that is incoming and outgoing? Just out of your basement there is absolutely staggering, Dan.
So last year, Enough Ministries was able to contribute over $500,000 in food, IRS value, which is like $2.50 a pound. So there's not much you can buy really for food for $2.50 a pound. But all that to say, we, since the pandemic started, have been doing about 450 pounds of food a day out to our community. Certainly, we expect that to continue.
How much of that was going to the hotels, though, Dan? And how many days per week were you loading up pickup trucks and delivering to hotels?
So I did have a hotel ministry that I was doing as well, and normally 1 or 2 full-size pickup trucks full of food were going to 7 local hotels and 2 homeless encampments. So obviously the bigger challenge is once people are out of the hotels, being able to deliver food becomes much more difficult because people will be dispersed across different places and whatnot. It'll sort of return to the way it was pre-pandemic. And that, people would show up at our food shelf and we would be able to serve them there. So we anticipate that will continue. Our soup kitchen meals on Tuesdays and Thursdays have continually gotten larger and larger. And I expect that they'll probably even increase more once folks are out of the hotels. We have traditionally also run a Sunday soup kitchen. And so I expect that will kick into high gear as well in the near future. So probably not as much delivery that we were doing before, but more relying on people to make it our place in order to distribute stuff.
Thom, last night, was it last night that you got a chance to the city council got a chance to address this. What was said? What did I miss last night?
Well, we've been talking about this for a number of weeks, and first of all, Dan, thanks for your good work, and thanks for your confidence, because it's it's refreshing, because what you were just talking about in terms of your can-do attitude, that's not something we have been hearing. A little bit of panic. So the first thing that I asked to be clarified was numbers. How many folks, how many households are we talking about? And to hear Dan say, some folks will make other arrangements. Again, that's refreshing, because I think everyone. The refreshing thing is that everyone wants to help, JD.
Sure.
And everyone accepts that, these are our neighbors, these are our citizens, and these are our responsibilities. So, but I think what panics people, quite frankly, is the unknown. We don't know what it looks like. I suspect by June 15th, I'm not saying we'll have a comfort level. Never comfortable to see someone homeless.
Sure. Right.
But I think we'll have a higher confidence level in terms of our ability to rise to this occasion and take care of people. So, Dan, if people want to help out Enough Ministries, because people do want to help, how can they help Enough Ministries so it's just an invitation for a shameless plug as long as we got you on the air.
No, of course.
Yeah, we're always open to folks that are interested in volunteering. Obviously, 450 pounds of food a day is a lot.
Wow.
We have a lot of great local partners, Hannaford's and Walmart and Cumberland Farms and Price Chopper. And, food needs to be picked up from those places on a near daily basis. And so that's one effort. Then we have to sort all that food, run it against the recall list and make sure none of that food is, being recalled by the FDA or somebody else. And then organize that food so that, stuff that's near ready to expire or whatever gets out first. So it's a pretty big effort to do that. We have people that are there that can help, get volunteers familiar with the process and how that works. We also do a clothing distribution every day as well. So, there are definitely areas there. People could go to our website, which is enough-ministries.org. And if they're there, there's a form on there they can fill out saying, hey, I'm interested in donating or I'm interested in volunteering, and we can plug them in. I'd be glad to have as many volunteers or donors that are interested as possible.
Dan, kudos to you and your associate pastor, Josh Fortier, and your behind-the-scenes staff that are in there daily down in that basement, turning food around, cooking food. Vicky and just Pat and Thom, and just everyone. Dave, who's washing dishes all the time and just separating, sorting out food and distributing it to our community is absolutely unbelievable. If folks have never been down there and witnessed what they do every single day as an operation, there is so much going on behind the scenes, and you're packed full with unsung heroes down there.
We absolutely are. We are so very blessed to have so many wonderful volunteers and food bank partners as well that make all of that sort of possible. I'm grateful that my leadership, their Christian calling has enabled them to spend the time to do those kinds of things that are making a difference in our community. I really think that we're making a difference in our community, and that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. God bless you, and thank you for coming on this morning, Dan. Let's get you on again soon, man, if we can, and Josh as well, okay?
That sounds wonderful. I'd love to do it anytime, JD. It's great to hear about what's going on. We're encouraged to help support our local community, and I think there are some good common sense ways to address this coming crisis. And I'm looking forward to tackling it head on.
Yeah. And of course, Rick DeAngelis is doing great work too, man. I mean, it's unbelievable. Thom, what's the city asking from the state of Vermont? Is the city saying, hey, we need some help here?
Well, we know we're going to need resources. I mean, you just heard Dan, 450 pounds of food a day. And if that demand increases, well, obviously he's either going to need resources, generosity of his neighbors, or both. So primarily we're asking the state for resources, and what we're trying to do. And again, it's the unknown, I think, that has people a bit panicked. We don't know what things look like on June 1st. We know that there are two waves, if you will, of exits, May 31st and June 30th. So, and we know approximately how many people will be exited from the program on May 31st and on June 30th, but we don't know what that, as Dan said, we don't know what that translates to.
Yeah.
Will 50% of those people make other arrangements?
Right.
Will 1% of those people make other arrangements, and 99% will still need help? And obviously, people need a place to stay. we know that currently, last night, there were likely folks who were camping
Right.
around, in the city or in the town or somewhere in central Vermont. We know that likely there were folks who were camping.
DeAngelis referred to this as the perfect storm. I mean, there's a multi-layered problem here. There's housing, and there's just so many things all happening at the same time, Thom.
It's JD, it's the cost of housing is affecting everyone.
Everything.
From folks who are upper middle income to folks who are homeless. And so, of course, because so if you look at our capacity to build, like last night at the council, everybody was saying, we need to build more housing. No kidding. Okay, best case scenario, if you start today, you might be done by 2025.
You are quoted the last time you were in here, I think it was a week ago, saying, we will not build our way out of this.
No. It's too expensive. We simply don't have the resources. And we're certainly not, eventually, next 8 years, could we build our way out of it? Well, yeah, if we start now, but we're certainly not going to build our way.
Work hard too.
Yeah, we're not going to build our way out of this by 2025. JD, look at the permitting. It is, it's 8 months to a year to permit a multi-unit housing development, a PUD, a plan. It takes 8 to 12 months. So even if you start, and let's think about Prospect Heights, that in Montpelier, 34 lots. Misspoke. Off Isabella Circle in Montpelier. Prospect Heights, haven't even started permitting yet. So that's one 34-unit housing. So there's 34 lots over in Montpelier that have been permitted. I'm not aware of any other projects in central Vermont that are even in the works. So if you start today, by this time next year, you'll likely have permits. People scream about how difficult permits are to obtain. I got to tell you, from observation, that has changed a bit. Even in terms of Act 250 and local permitting, people recognize the need for housing.
Sure.
So you are still put through your paces. There's certain responsibilities, stormwater management. There's, safety concerns. You absolutely have to address those. But it is a little different. We all recognize the urgency. But we're not going to build our way out of it by 2025. And again, that's part of the issue. We talked a bit about using, the best plan that I've heard is using the BOR as a temporary shelter. You could literally house hundreds of people. There's running water, there's electricity, there are facilities. So it would be something that would be much easier and quicker to deploy than some of the other things I've heard.
Is our city manager, Nicholas Storelli Castro, is he on board with that?
Absolutely. Well, yeah. But we're on board with it, provided the state fully staff it. The state needs to fund it. The state needs to staff it. We don't have the bandwidth in this municipality to staff it. We can't. We cannot.
So
but then I asked the question. I said, okay, no one has any help. Do you know of anyone who isn't looking for help? I don't. Every grocery store, every restaurant, every construction. Everyone's looking for help. So, and the state of Vermont isn't unique. It's not like, the state of Vermont is flush with help. They're not. So the question I asked last night is, I don't believe for a minute that the state is unwilling to help. I think the state would partner with us. But if we're looking to the state for human resources, for people, has anyone asked that simple question? Let's forget about whether or not you will. Can you? Do you have the bandwidth? Do you have 5 extra people that you can redeploy here at the BOR if we need them? I don't know that the answer to that question is yes. So even if we have the resources, if you don't have the human capital, what what difference does it make?
Not everyone on city council is in love with the idea of the Barry Auditorium being used.
No, with this,
why?
I think the council.
What are they? Who are the? What are they saying?
I don't know that any. Well,
that it's more of an emergency shelter if there was a natural disaster type thing, and this.
Yeah, but I don't know that anyone hates it. I think there's a bit of difference of opinion when, and even the city manager said, look, if you look at, should we allow people to camp within city parks? Well, we use those parks for, first of all, there are no facilities. For example, the cow pasture. There's no running water. There are no restrooms. There's no electricity. And if the cow pasture isn't all flat. I mean, some of it is rather hilly. So if you look at places where people even could camp, that also happens to be the places where the paths are, and people are using them for a different purpose. So you've got competing uses. And when I listen to all of the ideas, and and they say, well, people are camping now, right? I understand that that they're camping now, but if we add 100 to that number, it may not work.
Rick DeAngelis was saying there's literally so much physical space that is
right, but it's
lack
the
of a better
right
term, permittable for camping in not just Barrie, but Berlin.
Look,
and
people
Montpelier.
can camp anywhere. I mean, someone could camp in your backyard as long as they can use your restroom. But JD, we can't trade, and there has to be some level of supervision. As folks, there are folks who are homeless who face other challenges.
Sure.
There are folks who are absolutely pure of heart, but they face other challenges.
Sure.
There are folks who are not pure of heart, and they also face challenges. So there needs to be some level of supervision, especially when you talk about the fact that on June 30th, not on May 31st, but on June 30th, there will be children who will be exited from the hotel program. So the stakes sort of ratchet up. And that's why, again, of all of the there was some talk about possibly tweaking our ordinances so that, officers would be prohibited from moving people along or seizing belongings if someone was camping where they shouldn't be. I was absolutely against that. This isn't the first time we've talked about it. I've been around for a while.
Right.
And I think our officers, and our public safety staff, EMS responders and others, I think they have the ability to make decisions, and I trust them to make hard decisions. There will be times, and they have discretion. If a police officer pulls you over, a police officer can issue a warning. That inspection sticker may be up,
Sure.
but they have the discretion to issue you a warning. On the other hand, they have the discretion to issue you a ticket. And I think we should simply let them do their job. I'm sure they're going to be debriefing with the chief on, virtually a daily basis. So I'm not interested in tying their hands at all, because there will be instances, I hope there won't. It's likely that there will be instances where someone will have to be moved along. Mm-hmm. And because that person is either bothering someone,
Sure.
or they're escalating something to, they're escalating things to a certain level where others no longer feel safe. And
Sure.
if that's the case, they need to be moved along, period. And I'm not interested in curtailing an officer's ability to do that.
Yeah.
That's a you lost me at hello on that one.
How much more of this conversation is going to be taking place with City Council? Is there a lot more to
Well, at the suggestion of Councilor Wazazak, and I'm glad he suggested it, we're actually meeting next Tuesday for a debriefing. The council was not. It's Memorial Day, so the council was not scheduled to meet. But we are going to meet at I believe 5 p.m. for a debriefing, just so we can, be aware. Because the the one good thing, JD, is everyone's anxious to help. Everyone wants to help on some level. There was no one who said, "Well, we shouldn't be doing this at all." I mean, we'll certainly do our part, and as a matter of fact, and the council voted for it. We were ready to give away approximately $200,000 in ARPA funds last night, and we were set to vote on that. And we listened to all of the presentations, and there are some great projects, but they're exactly that. They're projects, and in terms of. So they're all great projects. I don't mean to minimize them, but as I said to the council when I made the motion, I said, "Look, I'm really struggling with the fact that we may have to deploy resources to address this crisis, and we're getting ready tonight to allocate $200,000. And by the way, we don't have any resources to allocate to meet this challenge. We may have a little bit." 10,000, 5,000, but we don't have in the hundreds. So, I said to the council, I'm struggling with the fact that we are poised to give away $200,000 in ARPA funds for these projects, and we don't know what the effect of the termination of the hotel program is going to be on our community, and what resources we're going to have to come up with either in the long or the short term. So we did decide to wait a week on that. The council supported that.
Comment here: the state needs to provide for the mess they created when they looked at this 6 months ago. First
of all, the state didn't create a mess. Okay, no, they didn't. So let's just stop with the rhetoric because it's not helpful. This was a pandemic, federally funded pandemic program, and we all knew that the program would come to an end. So, if you want to throw blame around, well, blame everybody. Blame the legislature for the failure to plan. Blame the state. Blame the city council for not talking about it. But what's the point? Assessing blame, political points, and it doesn't solve a problem. I'm here to solve a problem.
Yeah.
The most efficient solution, and I understand not everyone may like it, but depending on the magnitude of the numbers, the best solution that I saw presented was in fact the BOR, because the facility is there. We have
magnitude of numbers.
I don't know what the numbers are. Right. I don't know if 108 people translate into 108 homeless that evening, or if 50% of those people do make other arrangements. Yeah. I don't know if 50% of those folks only make arrangements for 2 nights, and then the number pops back up to 75. So we're just right now we're looking at options, and God bless people like Dan who can be calm about it and not get into the whole blame game. Just he's going to work. He's got 450 or 650 pounds of food to deliver, on June 2nd, and he's just going to do his job.
There's anger in the community, Thom, that these folks got a check for $3,000 to help them. And the hotels, Thom, $6,000 per month per individual that has been that has been staying in the hotel. Times 7 hotels. That's a lot of money, Thom.
It is.
That's a shit ton of money.
It's absolutely a lot of money. It was very complicated when the state started negotiating with, and JD, there's good and bad everything. And there are motel owners that I'd like to take out behind a building and kick the shit out of them. And there are hotel owners who have really tried. It's just like life, okay? So, but again, how is that? There's going to be plenty of time to play Monday morning quarterback. We've just got a job to do. So instead of, I'm just trying really hard not to engage in even though
Yeah.
he just said he kicked the shit out of somebody. No, I'm just trying hard to focus on my first question a number of weeks ago when we sat down, there had been an article in the paper. The article in the paper said 400 people.
Sure.
Then there was a press release that came out that said 200 and something.
Yeah.
So,
Well, 200 is Berry City. The 400.
No, 200 Washington County. It was bouncing all over the place. So, and we had all the players at the table, all the partners. And I said, look, before we even begin, can someone provide me with a number? Can someone just throw out a number?
Sure.
And can we all agree on it? Can we get a good number? Because I'm just trying to define the magnitude of the problem, and I realize that it's somewhat fluid. As I said, we don't know if 50% of the folks find other arrangements, or we don't know what that number is. But can we at least agree on how we damn well, if we can't predetermine how many folks are currently housed in the motels, if we can't come up with that number, then we're not going to be able to do anything. But we did. And we did quickly. So, JD, we've got a challenge. We got to rise to the occasion. We got to meet the challenge. It's not about political points. It's not about who's to blame. It's about taking care of people who need to be taken care of.
Yeah, we'll leave the blame.
I get it.
We'll leave the blame.
I get
game.
it. People can bang the table and say we need to build housing. No shit.
Yeah.
No kidding. What a brilliant offering.
Sure. Right.
It's like, but here we are with $350 a square foot building costs roughly.
Right.
So to build a 2-bedroom 1,000 square foot apartment, fairly modest. I mean, that's not a fancy apartment. $350,000. Now you've got to, if it's private development, and I don't care if it's private development. I mean, the state doesn't make money up here. Even if the state can leverage money, they can generally leverage money at a lower rate. But $350,000 for a 2-bedroom unit, you haven't paid property. So let's just take 5%, okay? Which interest rates are a lot higher than 5%. That's a pipe dream. But let's take 5%. That's $17,500 per year just in interest costs at 5%, and rates aren't 5%.
No, they're like what?
So
8?
so that's $1,500 in rent for that apartment, and all you've done is pay interest. Now add property taxes. How much are those? $100 a month. Now you're at $1,850.
Yeah.
Now add insurance. Another $50 a month. You're at $1,900. And guess what? You haven't paid utilities. You haven't maintained it. JD, that's the problem in a nutshell.
Food and gas.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's $2,000, 2-bedroom apartment, $2,000. Get a roommate, you're each paying $1,000, and oh, by the way, plus utilities. That's our challenge. That's my frustration.
You better get along with that roommate, too.
I drive my tractor around mowing my lawn, swearing the whole time, because I'm like, we had this ARPA money that when it first came out, I was so hopeful that we were really going to be able to do something impactful with it. And then all of a sudden, everybody lost their help and building costs went through the roof. Yep. I'm like, just when we get enough money to really do something that's going to make a difference, our ability to do it is cut in half.
Right.
It's
right.
So, there's a lot to be frustrated about.
What else was on city council?
Let's see. We had, of note, we had our TIF update. I don't know if you were aware, but the city did get a 2-year extension on our TIF, tax increment financing. That was something. Keisha Ram is a close personal friend of Karen and mine, and she, along with others, were real champions for that. And I just said, look, we got
tax what?
Tax increment financing.
Oh my God,
JD, it supports housing in the downtown. JD,
I'm just having fun with you, buddy.
It supports housing in the downtown, and what I argued successfully is that during the pandemic, the pause button got hit on everything.
Sure.
And I said, so why can't, because the pause button got hit on construction in our downtown, no one was doing anything, everything was closed.
Sure.
Why can't we get a 2-year extension? And that very rarely happens, and we were successful. So, grateful for that. Councilor
else?
Wozniak, we had the second reading of the Community Investment Ordinance. That was the second reading and public hearing for that ordinance. I did not vote for it. I understand that, I respect Teddy. I understand at times we see things differently. I looked at this ordinance, and my concern was that because of the additional restrictions and record-keeping requirements, it's a ordinance that essentially supports businesses who employ minorities,
right,
and generally folks who should be supported. My concern was that, okay, there's a lot of big companies with a ton of administration that could easily handle the administrative functions that are attached to this ordinance, but what about our smaller businesses that don't have that administrative bandwidth? And my concern was that we could end up hurting the very people we're trying to help. So I was a no. I was a no on that one. And let's see, did a couple of, like I said, had the ARPA hearings. We heard from those folks. A lot of great projects, but I just couldn't be handing out $200,000 when we don't know what our challenges down the road are.
Understand. The other day, I was up at Playground 2000 with Lily, and in my pathetic orthopedic state, was able to ascend high enough in the structure at Playground 2000 with Lily to glance over and notice the roof of the pool in the horrific shape that it's in. But we have some good news, though.
Yeah, getting replaced. Barslow Construction, that contract was awarded. And Barslow Construction is going to be out there replacing.
Beautiful.
And holy cow, that that roof on the pool house doesn't owe anybody anything. It is way past. It's so.
Now, Rex was saying something about a zip line into the pool from the roof. What's that all about? What the hell's going on here?
There's no zip line into the pool.
It's part of the bid. Tom.
Yeah, so we've got.
So what else? What else? Anything else?
There's always good things. We've got our committee reappointments coming up. That should be, pretty much run of the mill.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think the focus of the council and the administration right now is what are things going to look like post 531 and post 6:30.
Right.
We're all anxious to help. We all want to rise to the occasion. We've got some great partners, but we're smart enough to know that we can't do it alone.
Right.
And we can't do it without resources.
Yeah.
That's going to create a problem.
We are on the cusp of Memorial Day weekend. We've got
awesome.
We have the Memorial Day Classic on Sunday at Thunder Road. We have Storyland opening this weekend, Tom, this is the unofficial start of summer.
Yep.
We have plenty of great things to talk about.
We do.
Tracy and the partnership and what they're doing. We've got our farmers market starting up. We've got concerts in the parks that are going to be starting up. Food trucks are going to be everywhere. Carl Rinker and I were stumbling down the sidewalk the other day, live on the air, talking about the Art Splash, and the city looks amazing. There's a lot of great stuff going on.
Yeah, it's easy to. Yeah, it's kind of depressing when your job is to focus on problems.
I understand.
But there is. When we do take the time to step back and look around, I am grateful, and I said this last night, even in the face of this challenge, I'm grateful for the partners who are at the table.
Sure.
Everyone wants to help, and that's one thing about Barre is we've always had a real, can-do attitude.
Sure.
And I think I started talking about our TIF district. We've got sort of this focus group going on where we're going to be trying to create opportunities for reinvestment and redevelopment in the city. And they may not be as big as people would like or as big as I would like, but it's time we start focusing on the things we can do and not a wish list. And if we don't, for example, if we look at properties and it's like, look, that is just not a willing partner, then stop wasting your time.
Yeah.
Write them off, flip them off.
And do whatever you got to do. No,
and move on and do the things, accomplish the things that you can accomplish. But I feel personally, like in terms of redevelopment, reinvestment, creation of housing, I feel like the city's been idling for a number of years, and it's been frustrating me, and it's just time to get going and do something about it.
Yeah.
We talked about the length of time that it takes to develop housing. Well, you know what? When you eat an elephant, it all starts with that first bite. And so if we sit around moaning and groaning because it takes 8 years to build housing, and we sit around moaning and groaning for 3 years, well, guess what? We're 11 years instead of 8.
Right.
So let's get going. Prospect Heights did not work out with the MBRC. We did not receive an invitation to apply for the grants, but there are other funds out there. So just because we didn't get invited to apply for that grant, there's roughly 100 building lots just waiting for us up on the top of Prospect Street. We just have to get to work and develop them.
Bikers for Beth this past Sunday.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
I drove down. I parked. I parked at the end because I just wanted to see them. To me, that's the most impressive part when they all take off.
Sure.
And so, went down and watched that.
When I was there, I did have a few people say, when the hell is Thom going to clean up his goddamn mess?
Okay, well, fair game. Okay, so originally...
There's so much about this that people don't know, though.
There's a lot about everything that people don't know. I mean, JD, there's a lot that goes into everything. So this particular permit, let me just say that Brad Wheeler from Wheeler Environmental has been great. Brad has been boots on the ground since the day after the fire. I mean, the debris was still smoking when Brad got on the scene and started evaluating things and said, okay, Thom, I'm going to put the work plan together and let you know what you need to do to get this place cleaned up. It's just a very complicated permit. It's not a question of resources. We have those. It's a multi-jurisdictional permit, complicated by the fact that we need a railroad access permit as well. So that's 2 permits, one from the state of Vermont, one from Central Vermont Railway. So it's a multi-jurisdictional permit. And then on top of that, we have 3 work crews because they have different areas of expertise, and we're coordinating those 3 work crews on the ground. So we have our work plan approved. The state of Vermont was great about approving that. We are still waiting. I thought we would have our access permit last week. And, people get busy. It goes through legal review. I get all that. We were really hopeful, and we weren't overly aggressive on the schedule. I thought it was a reasonable schedule to get that permit last week, which would have enabled us to start this Monday, the 22nd. That was our start date. So that did not happen. So then we had to re-coordinate, like asking 3 friends for dinner. You call 3 friends and you say, hey, who can go to dinner Thursday? Well, chances are 2 of them can, 1 of them can't. It's the same thing with coordinating work crews, and they all need to be there at the same time.
Sure.
So thankfully, they've been great to work with. They said, well, why don't we start on Tuesday, the 30th? Monday's a holiday.
Yeah, that's the parade, though.
No. And I'm like, no. I said, no, you can't. No, you can't start on Tuesday the 30th because we have a Memorial Day. Absolutely
parade.
Not. And I said no.
Yeah.
I'll have no part of disrupting that on any level. I don't even want the noise of the equipment running.
Beautiful.
So we decided.
Love you, Thom.
Yeah. So we pushed it off the date now, and and I know people probably. They're as sick as I am of hearing these dates slip, but I think we finally got it, and I think it's what I'm pushing hard for is June 5th.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's just a question, like I said, it's not a question of resources, it's not a question even of help. I mean, thankfully, we talked earlier about no one has any help. We have the crews, we have the trucks, we have the
damn gloves on and your work
Well, I'll
clothes.
be there. No, I'm not trained. I mean, you can't just have anybody do it. We have crews that are certified and trained, and they mist all the debris to keep the dust down, and there's a certain process you have to do. I understand that folks don't like driving by and looking at it. I don't.
Sure.
Josh over at Gusto's, he's been great. We will do something with Josh. I don't know, maybe a free beer. We're glad your site looks better party or something, and he'll put a band on the resulting lot or something. No one's more anxious than we are to get that area cleaned up, and I understand how people could comment when they drive by it. They just don't realize how
they don't know
damn
the full picture.
complicated everything is, and how you have to coordinate things. So, matter of fact, I had tried calling the railroad just before I came down here this morning, and I'm going to try calling them when I get back to the office.
All right.
I need that, and everyone's been great to work with, JD, but not everybody marches to my drummer.
Sure.
And sometimes I have to be, smart enough to accept that.
I don't know if you remember. Do you remember the band Supertramp? And
of course.
Do you remember the album Crisis? What Crisis?
Yeah.
With the guy sitting in the destruction chaos with the umbrella above his head. I don't know. It makes
that like flashed in your mind.
I don't know why. I don't know why. But
yeah. So we've got. Yeah, we have a lot of things to be thankful for. We have a lot of things as we approach Memorial Day. We have a lot of things to be grateful for.
Yes, we do.
For those who have made the ultimate sacrifice.
Yep.
And I do think about that a lot.
And
I don't like the divisiveness. I know sometimes I add to it, and I try really hard now not to, because I think about folks who served in Korea or in Vietnam or in the Middle East conflicts or in the Second World War, and they all were on the same page.
Yeah.
Under the worst of circumstances, a lot worse than ours.
Yep.
And they were all on the same page. And I think if we could just stop the rhetoric and the finger pointing and we just got a lot of work to do, JD, and this is not going to be easy.
Yeah, right.
You mentioned earlier you were saying, Rick DeAngelis was calling it the perfect storm. It is on so many levels, not just on what Rick was referring to, where okay, I've got folks I want to house, but we don't have any apartments to house them in because we're not building more, and those pressures.
Sure.
I'm talking about national pressures.
Yeah.
I mean, we are in a perfect storm, and if we don't start electing reasonable people to manage our way out of it, the result is not going to be pretty.
Yeah.
I really worry. I probably worry about the future of our republic more right now than I have at any point in my life. I really do. Wow. I'm that worried about it. Because I just don't see people working together.
Yeah. It's too bad.
But listen, we'll keep plugging away.
Yeah.
We'll get that shitty, ugly site cleaned up.
Yes, we will. Tomorrow night at the Aldrich Library, from 6 to 7, they're inviting kids and their families to come. The kids get a free book. They're going to do Milk and Cookies Night Story Time right there under the tents on the lawn of the Aldrich Library. I just love stuff like this.
You going to bring Lily?
Of course I'm going.
Okay, well, I just asked.
Thom, it's free cookies and milk. Of course I'm going to be there in my jammies.
Yeah,
with
but
my pillow.
You have to bring Lily.
Of course.
Note they did say children, okay? So you can't just show up in your onesie with your teddy bear.
I'm short enough, Thom. I'll pass off. Nelson's Ace Hardware is going to be doing a big thing on Saturday right across the street from 11 to 2. Their Stars and Stripes barbecue party. They're firing up the latest grills. They've got lawn care demos. It's going to be a chance for you to win some great stuff, including a Milwaukee M18 worksite radio. Bob Nelson's, he's just amazing. I love this guy.
Everybody is. So walk up and down Main Street and pick out a store that sucks.
Yeah, right.
There are none.
Good luck.
There are none.
Right.
People are awesome. My God, when you're talking about that cookie thing at the Aldrich Library, and like you were going, all I could think about was Cousin Eddie. Like you showing up. Where's the cookies?
Veggie Van Gogh is doing with the Vermont Food Bank at the auditorium. Is doing on Friday from 9:30 to from 9 to 10:30.
Nice.
The Veggie Van Gogh. That's coming up. And coming up on Tuesday, this coming Tuesday. We always give the road construction reports on Monday mornings, every Monday. But Jeremy Reed from Vermont Agency of Transportation is going to be sitting right here.
Nice.
Giving us the summer forecast for road construction projects.
It's going to be a busy summer. It's going to be a tad inconvenient at times.
Yeah.
But
put your
we
goddamn
do
cell phone down, too, when you're coming into work zones, Tom. Right? I'm saying to everybody.
Put your cell phone down anyway. You can't.
Well, Tom, yeah. Good point. Good point.
Well, holy cow. No, and don't even talk on your cell phone if you're coming into a work zone, because that can, in and of itself, be distracting. And, folks are out there, construction workers are out there trying to help us out. So just don't be a dick.
Thankful. Love you, Tom. You're such a great guy. Thank you for all your time. Thanks for coming in here on Wednesdays.
I like coming in and
thanks
chatting about things. I hope I'm.
And thanks.
Am I a little more even keel now than I was 10 years ago?
No, I mean the last time you came in here, one of the last times, you looked like hell. You had your work clothes on and everything. Now you're all your typical Lauzon, all dressed up, looking sharp.
Just wearing a jacket.
Thank you to Salvador and Babic for being a presenting sponsor, for
not at all.
supporting us and our mission, our goal, our dream to not only entertain but also give out information.
We're part of this community, and we've been part of this community for decades. John Salvador first started the firm, a jillion years ago. So we're proud to be part of it.
Yeah, and also Green Mountain Mulch. I'm going to be heading up there pretty soon to go live. By the way,
are you really?
Yeah, I'm good.
Awesome.
Hopping on the bike, going up to the Northeast Kingdom. So
nice.
We love having you guys. It's just, what can we say?
You can tell you what. Have them.
Already been in touch with him.
Okay.
Balls
and
rolling.
Is Lindsay going to let you run the loader, the big one?
The
10-yarder?
We haven't discussed that.
Yeah.
But if you want to go with me, if
the 10-yard loader is pretty, it is pretty impressive.
If you're looking for an excuse to get out of town and you want you want to go with me, we'll take Karen's Porsche. I'm driving.
No, we'll take your car or my car, and we can play. We can play.
What, you don't want to be seen in a Corolla?
I'm not.
You want to go?
I'm not above anything.
You want to go in the back of my motorcycle?
My first car was my first car that was really my first car, not a parental hand-me-down, was a '74 Volkswagen Squareback.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
You get a speeding ticket in that?
that I got from a college roommate that we named Waste Man.
Nice.
And and
did you get a ticket in that car?
No, it wouldn't go that fast.
Really?
No, Waste Man and I spent the summer in 1981 chasing the Grateful Dead in the '74 Volkswagen Squareback.
God, Tom. Listen, one of these Wednesdays, and I don't know when, we need to go over to Gusto's and do Wing Wednesday. Okay?
Let's do it.
Have a couple of drinks and eat some wings. Let's do that.
We could do a whole, because you've got, burger night and wing night and pizza night.
Sure.
Man, we could,
We'll throw a few back, and then we'll go live.
It could be the summer of weight gaining.
I love that idea. And then we'll throw a few back and do some Art Splash walk.
We could do that.
Okay? Live on the air.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Thanks,
We'll
Tom.
go live for like 3 hours.
Thank you very much for coming in here.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. Raylene,
have a great day, everyone.
Reminding me, and I have not forgotten that it's Ladies' Day over at Vermont Quick Lube. So get over there. No matter who you are, you don't have to be a lady. It's not just like they're saying, hey, it's Wednesdays, we're only doing oil changes for ladies. But if you are a lady, you get a flower and a car wash with your oil change.
Nice.
So Get some clean oil and some clean, fresh fluids and be underway.
Have a great day.
Yeah. Thanks, Thom.
Gotta
Thanks so much for coming in here. And don't forget, Vermont Quick Lube, not just lubes and fluids and stuff like that, but also brakes, struts, tires, tire changes, rotations, state inspections, all of that. I posted a story last night on Facebook, a true story of delivering flowers Mother's Day weekend, and got a nail in the tire, a big nail in the tire, and was in full panic mode, and limped into Vermont Quick Lube. And they immediately got the nail out of the tire and patched it and had the tire and wheel back on the car in a matter of minutes, and I was back underway. They literally saved the day and removed a whole heap of stress that I had. Call or stop by today, 679 South Berry Road. I think everyone knows where Vermont Quick Lube is. On Facebook and open 24/7 at vermontlube.com. What else is going on? I think we are going to have the movie listings for everything playing at the Capitol Showplace Theater and the Paramount Theater right here in the Granite City as we head into Memorial Day weekend. There's some summer blockbusters that are doing very, very well. So we will have that as well. Have a fantastic rest of your day. Don't forget to get over to Nelson's on Saturday for the Stars and Stripes Memorial Day barbecue kickoff. They're going to be doing demos. They're not just going to be firing up, again, the Traeger grill, but several others, too. It's from 11 to 2 on Saturday. Lawn care demos and that Milwaukee 518 worksite radio. You can sign up to win that. Just enjoy. Take 1 hour at a time. God bless. Thank you so much for catching the podcast this morning. Aired out live from Fly on the Wall Productions, North Main Street, Barre, Vermont.